what is the film that you first discovered on home video that you really love? A movie you didn't see in the theaters, a movie you may not have even known or been alive when it played in the theaters, but you saw it on home video and you fell in love with it. Hey guys, I'm Adam Cesare. This is another episode of Project Black T-Shirt, and today we're going to be talking about 5 cult movies put out by the home video label Vinegar Syndrome. For those of you who don't know them, for 5 years now, Vinegar Syndrome has been putting out crazy cult horror sleaze films, and they're giving these kind of underground, little scene, lost movies the ultimate treatment. They're giving them great transfers. The movies look like they're new. They're packing the discs with extras. They're putting all these bonus features and extra films, associated films, on the discs. They're really doing incredible work. So today we're going to take a look at what I feel are 5 of their best releases from the last 5 years. And then, as always, as we always do on this channel, we're going to have a book recommendation, because after you watch all these movies, your brain's going to melt out your head. Now look, like I said, I've been with them since the very beginning. Their first release was a set of the lost films of Herschel Gordon Lewis, and they actually did a Kickstarter for it. So I was one of those first on-the-ground Kickstarter. But I don't, like I said, I don't have all their releases. I buy my collection and take great pride in it, but it's just not feasible to have every single thing they've put out. So if you don't see your favorite Vinegar Syndrome title on the list, that's why, and it's because it's an incredibly subjective list, and it's a list where I've prioritized horror films. This is a horror channel. I have prioritized that genre. Most of these are available on Amazon, and I'll put the links in the description where that's applicable. But Vinegar Syndrome also does a lot of their own mail order. You can order direct from them, and I can vouch for the speed and customer service level that they provide, which is really, really good. And if you don't want to go with either of those, there's always our friends Diabolic DVD. Without any further ado, on to the list. The first movie is Night Train to Terror. This is one of their first 20 or so releases. They're up to like over 200 now. This movie is very, very hard to describe. Nominally, it's a anthology film that involves God and Satan playing a chess match on a train. The first time I saw this movie was a few years ago as part of a horror movie marathon where you signed up and you didn't know what films you were going to watch. And this was a late one. This was around like 2 or 3 in the morning, and it is so strangely made, so weirdly clunky and compelling and fascinating that I straight up felt like I was having some kind of panic attack while the movie was playing. Even though it's not scary, it's not overly gory. It's just very odd. I would call this outsider art. Like if you want to know what like Creepshow would look like if George Romero and Stephen King literally forgot everything they knew and then just tried to make a movie. That's what this is. It's compelling and weird, and please don't comment with your hate after you see this. I've given you all the warning in the world. Our second movie is Luther the Geek. This is a movie that you may remember as a Troma catalog title. I know that I knew the kind of the box art and the poster art from back in the day when Troma had put it out. I grew up renting and buying a ton of Troma movies. This is one I never got to. It didn't super appeal to me. I wasn't like, there are weird acquisitions that they do. I'm kind of glad I waited until I got Vinegar Syndrome's disc, because this movie looks fantastic. It is a cool looking movie. It's up front in the beginning of the movie. There's a lot of kind of like on location mid to late 80s shooting in like a supermarket and stuff like that. And their transfer looks incredible, and it's kind of a slasher movie. It's about Luther the Geek, who was, as a little boy, watched a circus performer bite the head off a chicken and grew up to be a homicidal maniac that is like mistakenly paroled and goes on a killing spree. But it's not really set up like a slasher. It subverts a lot of the slasher expectations if you're thinking of it in like, Final Girl terms. It's not that, and it's almost like a mix between kind of like a home invasion siege movie and a slasher. Really, really good. The main performance in here from Luther himself, who clucks like a chicken. He doesn't speak. He doesn't speak English. That becomes a huge plot point later in the movie. But he clucks like a chicken, and it is a weird, creepy performance. So I really recommend Luther the Geek. Our third choice is Nurse Sherry. In the 70s, the production team of Al Adamson and his producer slash distributor Sam Sherman in Independent International Pictures really can't be beat for schlock in my humble opinion. And Nurse Sherry would be my pick for favorite Al Adamson film. It is about a cult kind of satanic preacher who dies, and when he dies, he possesses the titular Nurse Sherry, and weirdness and kind of police procedural and kind of action horror hybrid, because there's a incredible car chase scene in here, ensues. It is a lot of different genres mashed up into one. It is a fun horror film with a lot of different, there's like kind of riffing on possession and occultism. It's got some great late 70s staples done in interesting ways. It's a really, really fun movie. I don't want to upset anyone in the audience who's not down with this kind of cinema and call it a good movie, because it is incredibly interesting, and some parts of it are remarkably well done, but it is very weird, very strange. Has a great commentary. I don't listen to every commentary on every disc that I own, because it's a huge investment, but it has a great commentary with Sam Sherman. He's very conversational, and some of the stories that he tells are really great. I really recommend Nurse Sherry. If you haven't seen it, you haven't checked it out. Our fourth movie on this list is Horror House on Highway 5. If that name sounds like a mouthful, know that I tried to film this part of the video 10 times, because it's impossible to say. This is directed by a guy named Richard Casey. It was shot on 16 millimeter. It's kind of a regional or homemade horror movie, and he shot it on weekends and nights over a period of years and years and years. So you kind of start out in the mid to early 80s, and then you move into the later 80s, and you can kind of see that change happen in the film. There are some really cool kind of horror suspense elements to it, and then there are these almost Harold Pinter-esque bizarre dialogue exchanges and subplots, and it's kind of a slasher about a guy in a Nixon mask going on a rampage, and then it's kind of about all this other stuff, like scientists in hiding and people with iffy accents and things like that. It's really crazy, really wacky. Another one of those movies that's a real mind melter. You're gonna watch and be like, how have I never heard of this before? How is there not kind of a cult following for this? But there probably is somewhere, because this is the internet. A movie that I hadn't heard of before. My buddy, we were at the Vinegar Syndrome table. He's like, "Yo, you should pick that one up," and I did, and he was right. It's wacky and strange and crazy. I saved what may be the best for last. This is The Corpse Grinders. Has this beautiful slipcover on here. I don't think they have those anymore, because I think those are limited, but they should still have the movie. The disc is still out. This is Ted V. Michaels of the Doll Squad and Astro Zombies. This is his classic play on Sweeney Todd, only instead of meat pies, our antagonists here are chopping up people and turning them into cat food. It has cats that have grown accustomed to the taste of human blood and are attacking people. It is, when you think of B movies, or you think of, not that I love the term, but so bad it's good movies, this is one of the ones that should rise to the top, and should rise to the top of everyone's mind. And I'm not sure it actually does. I'm not sure it has the renown that it should. But very interesting film, very threadbare and odd, almost like Ted V. Michaels' Andy Milligan movie, if I were going to describe it in such a way. Kind of colorful, and I love the wacky, weirdo characters we get. Really, really good. If you want a movie that's going to be a hit at parties, you're probably gonna like The Corpse Grinders, because I know that it's pretty short. Yeah, it's 73 minutes. It's barely feature length, and it moves, and it's weird. As with everything, great features, great transfer. A movie like The Corpse Grinders, you wouldn't think it would be able to look this good, but it does. And thank you, Vinegar Syndrome. That's the list. I've got my Vinegar Syndrome shelf over there. I did a Blu-ray DVD tour at one point, so I'll link to that if you want to see me talk about some of the other stuff, which I do briefly. And before we forget, this week's book recommendation. I don't have a physical book of it, I only have the ebooks, but I'll flash the cover up. It is Monster Squad, Celebrating the Artists Behind Cinema's Most Memorable Creatures by Heather A. Wixson. I had to read that title because the subtitle is so long, but it is a book of interviews with makeup effects artists and animatronics artists and creature effects artists. It's kind of retrospective interviews. It's 20 interviews, retrospective interviews with their whole careers. And it's really interesting when you get something like this where, yeah, you see one or two interviews kind of on like DVDs and Blu-rays, and it seems that people can sometimes go in depth and talk about their career. But what's really great about Wixson's book is that you place these guys and gals next to each other, and then they talk about their careers chronologically, and you start seeing all the different ways that they overlap, and like you work with and meet up with like Stan Winston and Rick Baker and the Can-Be effects guys, and you get a picture of how special effects in film, visual effects, kind of evolved from the famous monsters of film and the Aurora model kits, monsters, to the present day, because they do go into digital effects and talk about how some of these guys and gals have switched gears and have moved their craft into the digital age. It's a really, really fascinating read. It's long, and there are a lot of interviews, but it reads kind of like Grease Lightning because it's very conversational. I really recommend it for anyone who likes movies. And if you've watched this much of this video, you probably like movies. I want to say thank you to everyone who has watched my videos and subscribed. You guys have been really, really cool to me over the last couple years when I've been doing this YouTube thing. I do get questions about, oh, how do I best support you, or how do I, help get the word out? First of all, watching the videos, sharing the videos, commenting on the videos, that all helps. So thank you very much for doing that. If you want to monetarily support me directly, I don't have a Patreon or anything like that, but I do write books. I write horror novels and short stories and sometimes comics. So go to my website, find out all the information about those books, buy them, review them on Amazon, tell your friends about them. That really, really, really helps me. If you say, Adam, I'm a super fan, I already have all your books, I've already read all your books, I'm waiting for the next one to come out. Thank you, that's great. But do you have the t-shirt? These are up on my website. This is the summer job done by artist Trevor Henderson. The other designs are by Chris Enterline. I have on the merch tab on my website. If you were absolutely ravenous about giving me your money, you could do it that way. So thank you in advance for all of that stuff, and to listen to my spiel at the end here. I'll be back next week, and we're going to be talking movies again. We're going to be doing a doubling up on the movie videos. So I've been Adam Cesare. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time.